Hey guys, I got a deck for you today, and this is my take on Scam for the Timeless format. And so I'm gonna give you guys the deck breakdown, and then I'll go into depth a little bit more, explain about the card choices and what you can potentially change, and how to sort of play the deck. And yeah, we'll go from there. So first off, to break down the deck, this deck is not cheap. This deck you can only really make if you've been playing Arena for a long time and you've acquired a lot of you saved up a lot of mythics, you saved up a lot of wild cards. Otherwise, it's very costly for a deck that it hasn't been proven to be that great on Arena yet. Just because the Modern Horizons 3 came out about a week ago. Well, not really a week, like maybe four or 5 days ago. And so there's a lot of experimentation on Timeless right now. I saw that, this scam did pretty well in Modern, and so I wanted to try playing it on or in Timeless and seeing how that does. And so this is kind of like my take on it. But like I said, it costs a lot of wild cards to make it, so I definitely don't recommend this deck unless you just love playing a scam in real life, or you want to play something like this. But yeah, so for my version of the deck, including both the sideboard and the main deck, I think there's like 22, 23 mythics. Now I repeat myself, mythics. So, most of the time you're pretty well aware that the rares are what you need to create a deck. But this particular deck requires 23 mythics, 22 mythics, and so it's, as you can kind of see, that's really really expensive already. In terms of the rare, you need, I think, 35, 37 rares, so that's also a lot. And so, yeah, this deck is not easy to craft unless you've been saving up for months to make. And that's probably not a reason why I haven't really seen anyone pilot this deck on Arena. I've been playing from, I think, Gold 4, Gold 3, all the way to Platinum right now, and I have not seen another scam type deck. I've seen Rakdos Burn, which I also play on the side sometimes to just to do quests and whatnot, but I have not seen a take on this one, and so this is kind of my take on it. All right, so deck breakdown. I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit of time to kind of look at it here. So I'll run through a couple of cards real quick. You got a total of six Undying effects. You got four Ragavans, probably the best one drop. Best two drop, Orcish Bowmaster. You don't have Dalfi, unfortunately, so you're kind of missing another good two drop there, which is Dalfi usually. You don't have Dreadbore and you don't have Terminate. And so Molten Collapse is probably our other good removal card that's dual color. Or you have Ongar's Wrath is your other choice there, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Then you have a choice between playing Blood Moon or Season Pyromancer or Fable. I decided to split the two, focus more on the Fable and a bit of Season Pyromancer. I'll explain that in the a little bit later in the video. And then you have your main scam targets, which is the Grief and the Fury. And then you have Shieldred to kind of keep you in the game or to close out the game if you're really, really close. Shieldred kind of helps. Although Shieldred's a little expensive for Timeless, but I think she still can work pretty well. Okay, for lands, you have 20 lands, 6 fetches, and I think, let me count, 9 fetchables. So 9-6 split right there. And then you have a couple utility lands, Lock Thwain and Mount Doom. And then for Cyborg, the Cyborg is untested right now. I'm still going through the kind of the theorying right now. I haven't played this deck in best of 3 yet. I've only played it in best of 1. And so this side deck, kind of just take it for what it is. The main card I would really focus on is probably Blood Moon. If you're not playing this in the main deck, then I would suggest playing it in the side. As for everything else, Graveyard Hate is probably something you want to focus on, especially with Circle Extraction. Kind of nice because you can hit a, if you're playing against combo, you can Grief or Thoughtseize them and then Surgical Extract their combo pieces, which is really nice. So that'd be something I'd focus on. Additional Graveyard Hate here. Edict. Edict is the only really useful for those creatures that have ward or indestructible or can't be targeted or something like that, hexproof. So that's what Edict is for. It's also another good instant removal spell, so that's your choice there. Molten Collapse, just an additional Rakdos color removal spell. Also helps get rid of Chalice on one if your opponent's playing Chalice. Liliana of the Veil, I just didn't know what else to put in here. I guess she's good against control. If they don't get rid of her, she can be your win con technically. Meltdown, Brotherhood End. For any artifact decks that you might go across, these were both really efficient removal for both those type of decks. And yeah, all right. So with that being said, let's go over the explanation of each of the card choices here to kind of help you guys understand how I'm building this particular deck and what I'm trying to accomplish with it. All right, so for those who don't know what Scam is, it's basically you're trying to cheat out either Grief or Fury turn one, and have them stick on the board and then do a lot of damage. How you do that is with these particular cards, the Undying Malice effects, so or they're basically these types of cards that give your creature undying. So when they die, they come back to the board essentially. So when you invoke Grief and Fury, it puts two stacks on the or puts two trigger on the stack. So it puts the stack that they will sacrifice themselves because they were invoked, and it puts their effects on the trigger, and you can stack it however you like. So generally, you would stack the sacrificing trigger, then you would put their effect as the second trigger. So you would resolve the first effect. Let's use Grief for example. You would Thought Seize them, and then Grief would sacrifice itself. So in Arena, for this to work out, you would have to go to full manual control when you decide to invoke either Grief or Fury. If you don't, then both triggers will resolve very quickly, and you won't have a chance to try to play or cast any of the undying effects on them. So what I mean is, like, when you invoke it, the creature goes, gives you the option to stack your triggers, and then once the stack resolves, they just die immediately. They don't give you the option to pause between the stack, the two triggers of them, thought seizing and sacrificing themselves. So it's just something to keep in mind. So you make sure to go into full control when you do the combo. Similar to like Lotus Field, when that came out and they had Stifle, you would play Lotus Field and it would just sacrifice your lands without giving you the opportunity to Stifle. So without going into full control. Nowadays they kind of implemented it where the trigger for this, the Lotus Field would go on the stack before giving you the opportunity to Stifle yourself. Okay, so like I said, so you have 6 undying effects, technically 5 because I'm decided to play 1 reanimate. I had 1 copy and I decided just to toss it out, but it's the same idea as playing Undying Malice or Not Dead After All. So the reason why you choose these ones right here is because Undying, the Not Dead After All is the best one because it gives your creature or enchants your creature with a +1/+1, and when that creature dies and this or this aura leaves the field, it pings your opponent for 1, which can kind of be relevant sometimes. So it's just extra damage. It's the best one. No one's gonna waste removal on the token enchantment, so you don't really have to worry about that. And even if the token enchantment dies to something like, I don't know, Prismatic Ending, your creature doesn't die. At least I don't think so. But yeah, so Not Dead After All, probably the best Undying effect. And then you have obviously the generic, the original Undying Malice here. There's a couple other ones. Let me go ahead and show you guys some other options. So you have a couple other ones. You have Fringe Death, which is same thing as Undying Malice. You have Malakir Rebirth, which is, it can double as a land or a Undying one. It's strictly worse because you lose 2 life, and it doesn't give your creature a +1/+1, which is actually kind of important because by giving your creature, say a Fury, a +1/+1, you make it a 4/4, which makes it harder to be removed, especially by something like by Lightning Bolt. Making it a 4/4 is pretty relevant. Also, it deals 2 extra damage because of Double Strike. So instead of swinging in just for 3 damage twice, it swings in for 4 damage twice. So that's kind of relevant there. Also makes your Grief pretty decent too. Although your grief will still die to lightning bolt, it still makes it a 4/3. Makes it pretty hard to block. Not only does it have menace, but yeah, it makes it pretty difficult to block and clocks your opponent a little bit quicker. So that's why you want those +1/+1 effects. So I decided to not play the rebirth here, and I don't think I really gotten really land screwed all that often because you do have quite a bit of cycling in this deck with the Fable and the Seasoned Pyromancer. As long as you get the 3 mana, you're pretty good. And then yeah, then the rest of the Undying effects aren't that useful or that good to play. Okay, so that's the Undying. So you have a total of 6. I'd count Reanimate as one of the Undying because you can do the same thing. So this um, instead of you know holding full control, you let the creature die. You let Grief or Fury sack itself, and then you just reanimate it. The only issue with reanimate is that you're taking a lot of damage. So if you're reanimating Fury, you're taking 5 to the face, which can potentially kill you. Um, Same thing with Grief, you're taking 4 to the face. The only reason I'm playing the one of right here is just in case, oh, you know, in late game maybe you're drawing the Undying Malice, you're drawing the Not Dead After All late game. I guess I don't want to draw multiple copies of them if I don't have anything to revive. And because we don't have Dalfy either, these Undying effects work better with Dalfy because you can Dalfy if they cast a spell. You can cast this on Dalfy, sack the Dalfy, you know, cast their spell, Dalfy comes back. But without Dalfy, it makes these Undying effects a little worse. So I decided just to play the one Reanimate in here. And so Reanimate is more flexible. You don't have to combo it. You can just use it whenever. You can use it on your, I don't know, Ragavan. You can use it on your opponent's creature if they got something juicy in the graveyard. Or you basically you grief them and you see something, you discard like an Eldrazi or something like that. You can just reanimate the Eldrazi. Maybe it has Annihilator. There you go. You have a turn 1 Eldrazi. So it's just some cheesy stuff you can do to reanimate. Granted, I would only play 1 or 2 copies in the deck. I have yet to test it with more than 1 or 2. I think if you go too high, then you're just gonna end up killing yourself a lot quicker. It's better in a deck with something like Gristlebrand, where you can bring back Gristlebrand, draw 7 cards, and then swing in for a bunch of damage and heal up. But we don't really have that much heal in the deck outside of Shieldred, so be a little careful if you're gonna play more than a few copies of Reanimate. And then yeah, so Kroxa is kind of like your secondary win condition because you do toss a ton of stuff in the graveyard, and if you have nothing else to do, you can always just cast Kroxa, which is kind of nice late game. Just a late game win con if you're out of steam essentially. And oftentimes you're gonna end up discarding Kroxa with the Pyromancer or the Mirror Breaker. You're never gonna cast it really, because casting it for 2 mana just to force your opponent to discard one is kind of pointless, unless they need that land or they have no other cards in hand. Then maybe you can do that. But yeah. Okay, so for Fable, the reason I'm decided to max out on Fable is another win condition technically. You can do the cute combo of if you have Fable, if you have Reflection flipped, and you have Grief, for example. What I do sometimes is I'll wait for their draw phase. They draw, then I activate Reflection. I'll make a copy of Grief, and Grief will trigger and then looks at their hand, discards a card. So that's one way you can do it. Same thing with Fury. You can do combo it with Fury, but that's for more of a late game thing. It happens occasionally, but what tends to happen more is if you have 2 Fables, 2 Reflections, you can copy them, and you have a bunch of open mana. Let's say you have like 5 open mana, you can make like easily 5 tokens of Fable at the end of their turn. So that's one thing to keep in mind is if you are going to do the Reflection combo, you want to do it at the end of their turn. And when they pass turn or whatever, you have 5 open mana, you have 2 Reflections, you just copy each other, you make 5 of them, they gain haste, your turn comes, they don't sacrifice themselves yet because it's the beginning of the end step. Once you pass the beginning of the end step, it's all good. So you attack with it, beginning of your end step, they sacrifice themselves. So that's another win condition there. That's why I'm playing the 4 copies. It might be a little slow in Timeless, but I think it's probably fine, honestly. And yeah, just overall, good value card. Um, Seasoned Pyromancer, much of the modern scam has kind of dropped this card because it's kind of slow and it gets punished by Orcish Bowmaster, etc. And with Fury banned in modern, it's not that good anymore because you don't need that many red cards anymore um, uh, to have in hand to use with Fury. So a lot of people drop Pyromancer, but I think Pyromancer is still relatively a good card, especially if you're Al Gas. You have nothing in your hand, you can just play him, draw more cards, or if you have too many lands in hands, or you have too many Undying cards that are, whatever, then you can just play him, you know, cycle your hand, maybe draw some gas. So I still think he's good to play. I don't know if you want to play 4 copies of him. I think 2 copies have been particularly fine so far. And also you can also use Undying on him if you can like they attack and you block with him and then you just cast an Undying effect, kills him, he comes back and you draw 2 more cards. So there's a bit of synergy in that sense. And worst comes to worst, you exile from the graveyard, you make 2 elemental tokens to run in for some damage. Okay, so that kind of goes through the main deck explanation of my card choices here. Yeah, it's been pretty good. 20 lands. Let's talk about the lands then. For lands, we got 3 swamps. You need the swamps because for Blood Moon Cyborg, if you're not already playing it in the main deck, then you should definitely play it in the sideboard. I The reason that I'm playing the side deck because I'm playing best of one, and not a lot of decks in Timeless get hurt by Blood Moon. From at least from what I've seen so far. Um, Tron hasn't really made a huge impact quite yet. Maybe in the future it will. It's only been a few days, right? So um, give it some time. As of right now, a majority of the decks in arena, or at least in Timeless, have been either monocolor or dual color, and a majority of them also play red. So I haven't really found Blood Moon quite necessary yet, but it's something you could play in the main if you feel like it. But for now, I think it's sideboard worthy, which is why you need 3 swamps. You need your black mana to also combo off with the Undying Malice turn 1. And so, yeah, 3 swamps is most important card, or at least most important basic. You also don't know if you're going to be running into any Winter Moons or, um, any of those type of things, Sun Moon or whatever, or is it, or sorry, um, is it Winter Moon? Yeah, Winter Moon or Solar Moon or one of those moons. Those the other stacks cards. So having the swamps is kind of nice. Lock Terrain just draws you cards and it works okay with Shieldred because you can heal off with it sometimes. And then you have the one mountain just in case you're playing as Harbinger of the Sea. I don't foreseeing that card being that popular in Arena, but it's nice to have. It's also another target for you to crack with Bloodstained Mires and not damage yourself too much in case you need a source of red without shocking yourself with Blood Crypt or something like that. So yeah, one mountain seems to be good here. 3 Cleaves, Black Cleave Cliffs. Um, you could play 4. I think 3 is okay because you want to see it in your opening hands, and then kind of later it's kind of dead anyways in terms of tap land because this deck does go up to turn 4 and maybe even turn 5 in terms of how many lands you can get, and sometimes you can hard cast the Grief or the Fury, and so because of that, I would say 3 is good enough. I don't think you want to play 4 because sometimes you'll need an untapped land when you get to your turn 4, turn 5. You don't want to be drawing, a bunch of these and have them come in tapped. That kind of sucks. So, 4 Blood Crypts, just not a good target for our fetch lands. Gives you all the colors you need. Not really much to say about that. Mountain Doom, while it doesn't look like it's necessary in the deck, it's proven its worth in terms of just squeezing out the extra damage just to finish off your opponent. There's been a few games where my opponent's been on like maybe 1 or 2 life left, and I'm like out of gas. I'll just start using Mountain Doom, and it actually just kills them. So it's kind of funny that this card does that. I don't think you would want to play more than 1 copy, not only because it's a legendary land, it also hurts to use. So every time you cast something with it or need to add mana, it does 1 damage to you. So you don't want more than one copy. I think one is good enough to do the one damage and still give you the colors that you need. Theater is nice, just the one copy, because you can fetch it. And if you have nothing to do, you have a bunch of fetch lands, and maybe you're running out of cards in your hand or you're flooding out, then the theater kind of helps to dig for some action, for some gas. So it's just nice to have. Wouldn't play more than one, mainly because first turn you need an untapped source of mana. Hence why we're playing the Black Cliffs, the Blood Crypts, the Swamps. We really need a non-tap land turn one. Um, Later in the game, if this is still in your deck and you have a fetch land and maybe you're, like I said, you're running out of gas, then you could definitely fetch it. Get the Surveil, which is kind of nice. All right, so that kind of wraps it up nicely, right? So it's a pretty decent deck. Like, there's games where I cast Fury on turn one, and then I just kill my opponent by turn three because they just cannot answer this, or they spend a bunch of resources trying to like throw, I don't know, double lightning bolts or whatever, trying to get rid of Fury. Um, and Fury naturally is pretty good at removing creatures and Planeswalker just because it does 4 damage to everything. So I don't think you really need that much removal in the deck just because Fury does that already. So you got your fail pushes and lightning bolts. Namely, these are used to get rid of things like a Ragavan early game or Deathrite Shaman, because those will kind of mess you up if you let those resolve and you leave them unanswered for a while. Those will definitely hinder your game plan. So lightning bolts and fatal pushes, just get rid of those. Lightning bolts also good for just getting the extra damage into your opponent's face. And same thing with Ragavan here. Ragavan is just to add a little bit early pressure because our turn one we don't really have a one drop. We only got really Thoughtseize and Ragavan to play turn one if we don't have our combo pieces. So yeah, Ragavan is good in that sense. It gets walled by Orcish Bowmaster, but we also are playing Orcish Bowmaster, so we have a good chance of just killing their Bowmasters with ours. And so I think Ragavan is probably the best one drop that we could play in our particular deck, and helps us to ramp a little bit. Anything else here? I think that's really it. Yeah, I think it went through the deck pretty well here. Um, yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoy this particular deck breakdown and give this deck a shot if you have the material for it. It's like I said, it's not very cheap at all, requiring almost like 23, 24 mythics, and then 20, 35 rares or so. So not cheap at all, but I think it's definitely one of the funner decks to play, especially if you're a fan of Scam in Modern. Um, I don't have the deck in Modern, but I wanted to play it. Same thing with like Grixis Death Shadow. I don't have that particular deck in Modern, but I wanted to give it a shot. And this is my take on it. Let me know if there's something I should change or if there's a card I'm missing. I tried to look up as many different versions of Scam as I could find on Goldfish and Aether Hub and etc. just to see what people were running and getting some ideas out of it and trying to essentially change the deck that would fit the timeless format a little bit better. There's obviously a couple other broken cards like Reanimate that you don't have in Modern, for example. That's pretty good. Um, I don't know if there's any other particularly broken timeless only type of cards that would work well in this particular deck. If you know one, just leave it in the comments and we could give it a shot. Try it out. Let me know about the sideboard too. This is one thing I need the most work on because I have not played too many best of three with the deck yet, so I can't say if this particular sideboard is good or not. But hopefully it will function when I do tackle that. Anyways, that's it, guys. I hope to see you guys next time.